assessment where, and then someplace in there we've got to work in is that need is a noun and not a verb.
Yes, I already got that.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
By
good.
the way, if you want an image, it's a very interesting. I don't know if you are familiar. I'm a small opera fan, and in Wagner, in the Nibelungs, in the Rain Cycle, there is a moment where Siegfried has a sword on the stone and pulls the sword. You know the name of the sword? Need.
Need?
Need. Is the what frees Siegfried from and I made that reference to Roger, who didn't like opera so much, but but it was interesting that of all the words in German, I don't know exactly, need is the the key or the sword in the stone, because that was the point of contention of Roger with loose use of the word.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that makes it a broader.
Yes.
Just it takes it out of the word, because I always thought of Roger being more of an assessment driven as the framework, and then needs assessment was one of the things, and then the idea about being freeing ourselves from a verb to a noun.
Yes.
And I am conceiving this now less as the circle that I did for it's one of those days.
Harless.
I see. I can think of Noonan. I can see his face. Okay, so I did really a circle for Harless, and I did somewhat of a cycle journey for Chevalier. But to me, I'm starting to think of this as a branching journey, a tree. But or a river, perhaps, because it would move sideways.
I think the river idea is very good, because it's basically it's always flowing. Because I think Roger. I think the idea of the river.
Others get into the river and it goes on.
Right. Yeah.
When Roger is no longer personally here.
Right. I think I like that idea, and that way it gives somewhat that journey motif. Also.
I like it.
I think you do
as well.
I think your journey things are very good, Glenn.
Okay, I have an assignment for you guys, which is each of, I mean, you split it up among you, but I would like you to list, okay, maybe Roger in assessment, and maybe you, Mariano, in mega, and particularly city doctors.
Okay.
Bullet point key ideas and key events that you think are important to capture.
Okay.
We may have to tweeze it back from there.
Okay.
And Roger, maybe you could take the assessment idea and then the research and science and PI, which seems to me are deeply intertwined.
Okay.
No, it's just assessment, not needs assessment. And then the research. So that'd be mega. And city doctors, yeah. Not that you should limit yourselves in any way, but.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think he and I work back and forth on it.
Yeah, I figured the same. And what I would also like you to do, because I think you're closer in, is you might ask Jan for this, a nice picture of a photograph of Roger. I would like to do what I did with Harless. I don't mean Harless. I did Harless freehand.
I have several that I'll send to you, Lynn, that I
Okay.
think are quite good. So if that, and I have one that you sent me, Mariano, of Roger and Jan sorted together.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
send you that one too, if that's okay.
Good, great. If you'll send me that raw material,
Okay.
that would be good. What program you working in?
Blackboard or something like that. It's on his, you're muted.
You're muted, Mariano.
We can't hear you. Nope, can't hear you.
No?
Now we can.
Yes, now.
Oh,
Now.
okay. But I think I have a battery problem here. One second, I will replace. Work normally. Is it working now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why this thing I have, this lapel uses a lot of battery. So I'm just putting
Yeah, key ideas and or events or models, artifacts, things.
okay. Advanced models. Okay. Okay.
They don't have to be advanced. Sometimes it's
just,
the basic that's really makes the difference because everybody understands it.
I want to, this is a thought. I'm looking at my bookshelves. Where does Rogers, where do we put Rogers strategic planning stuff?
well, I think Mega is part of it, without doubt.
Okay.
But there is actually some part that is related to his contribution to management, which is important as well. I mean, there was a time back in the, I would say, 80s, when there was this huge outpouring of after Drucker management gurus. And somehow Roger, got into strategic planning then with a different take, in the sense that he wanted to emphasize what was outside the organization rather than inside.
Yeah.
No, he quoted Drucker a lot. I don't know if that
Yes.
that in some place.
May I suggest, Mariano, you create a third column?
Oh, sure. Let's go for it. Okay. Oh. Okay. Yes.
Okay, and then move events to the, it's like, so there will be key ideas, then models, and then key events. Because events are particular happenings in time, whereas models sort of pull ideas together.
Okay, I see.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so we have here, yeah, I think those could be useful. I will send you also I made it could be understood as part of a tree because it was is a fish bone kind of diagram showing how all the different contributions that built into HPT or performance field are going to mega, going to individual, organizational, and societal performance as the end result. And that show different things that Roger, the only purpose of that will be to keep in mind or to look at the contributions. Roger worked a lot with Drucker and also was very conversant with the likes of, what's the name of this guy, Megatrends, Toffler, and the time of the themes of paradigm shift. He was extremely interested in this changing the approach or the way you look at things. He used a lot the idea of paradigm shift, like things that make you, and that could go into key events if you want, besides a specific moment.
I think that if you guys fill this out,
Yeah,
that'll be a useful tool right there.
Yes.
And I will not attempt to illustrate everything in it. I
No,
will
that's-
do some cherry picking because keep in mind, we're going to have a half-page graphic that has to make sense to people who don't already know everything that all of you know. So, but I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I'm adding this. He liked to talk about precisely strategic thinking as opposed to planning,
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay.
and that has to do with the paradigm shift and all that stuff.
Yes. Right.
No?
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
We got some nice groundwork here.
I think if we just sort of stick to that, that would be the framework to do, because like you said, it can get messy really quickly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know?
And it's okay if this framework that we're looking at here contains more than we can put in the graphic,
Yeah, I understand.
because the framework itself will be a useful thing for people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think that will help us, Roger, also to organize this kind of introduction,
Right. Yeah.
because we can play with these pieces, and it's like if you force yourself to write or describe what goes inside there, you basically have the bones of the article, of the intro article.
Right. Okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This will help us from the introduction standpoint.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, not.
I
By the
will
way-
send a copy of this and a recording of this session, so we have.
Okay. What's a target time for me to receive these resources?
Mine, I can send it today.
Oh,
You mean the pictures and
the
description
pictures
will
and
take a little
and
longer.
the grid. Uh-huh.
The matrix is when do you need the matrix is what you're asking, I think. Right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When do you?
Don't ask me when I need it. You tell me when you can do it, because you guys have a fuller calendar than I do.
Yeah. Well, let me see.
I think it's
Well, within the week for sure.
no.
I think.
Let me make a suggestion, Mariano. I think for experience.
Excuse me.
I think for expedience, if you and I have another Zoom call to fill in that matrix, would be a lot faster than if I work by myself and you work by yourself.
Oh, perfect. Sure. We can do it. Let's see. You want to schedule that between you and me?
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I can
After
do
we
it
free
anytime,
Lynn
but
from this meeting, we can just check our calendars and
Yeah.
just create a meeting.
that's fine.
So,
Because
yeah.
I think it would go faster. I think we could do it a lot faster than if I just sit down and do it and you sit down and do it.
Yeah.
Oh, sure,
That's
sure,
what-
exactly. We
For
narrow.
one thing, nobody can interrupt you while you're doing it,
Right.
which is
Okay.
one of the obstacles for me. Okay, so when you guys have worked it out, let me know when I can expect the matrix, then I plan time that I will focus.
Okay.
And we'll
Okay.
probably do a couple of iterations of this
Okay.
once I actually start roughing it out. I'll do a first rough that would have mostly words and little sketchy indications and get your feedback on it. And then I'll start actually doing a graphic. Roger, it is below freezing and it is snowing here. What is it doing in California?
Oh. It's going to be in the 70s today.
Oh, wow.
How nice for you, not 90s anymore. What's it doing in
Not 90s, but
Chicago?
it'll be so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mariano, what's it doing in Chicago? Or are you in?
I'm in
Paris?
Chicago. No, I'm in Chicago. My answer is pretty visible. Today is like 11 Fahrenheit out there. So
It's
it's
freezing. Very,
yeah, it's
very
freezing.
cold.
Exactly.
Very cold. Yeah.
Very cold. Yes. So it's what we call spring.
Yeah, it's the country is farther apart than usual in what's going on in the different sections.
Oh yes. It's increasingly like inhabited in like
And layers.
juxtaposed universe, parallel dimensions.
Right.
No, I have friends that I sometimes I get confused with the friends, and I try to. There was a great Buster Keaton film. In this film, he plays it's called the General. He's a double agent for the South and the North. So he has to walk between the lines of the Union and Confederate soldiers, and he devises a uniform that is half this side is the Union and this side, and he has a flag, a rigid flag that one side is Confederate flag. So he goes and says hello, and you see people waving, and he says hello to the other side, and people, and all of a sudden the wind blows and moves the flag, and of course everybody shoots at him. I feel like that.
Understood. Okay, gentlemen, I am going to go join my husband's family.
Oh.
We're cleaning out his mother's townhouse because the sale of the townhouse closes tomorrow.
Oh.
And we have to clear the decks, finally clear the decks so that the new buyers can move in. So I'm going to absent myself, and you guys figure out your time.
Okay.
And you'll just let me know. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
roping
you.
me in. It's always nice to just stay involved.
Absolutely. Say hello to Chris.
I will do that. Okay. Bye, Roger. Hi to Michael.
Bye. I just sent you the pictures.
Oh, thank you.
I just sent you the pictures.
Roger, if you want to schedule, let me, okay, I'm going to share screen, so can go to the calendar, ping, let's see, wow, this is really busy. How about, well, I have some options. Tomorrow, I will be involved preparing the Kaufman Award.
Right.
And so the Wednesday. So I will free myself on Thursday. And so if you want, if this time works for you, we can schedule a meeting on the 29th. Is okay?
Yeah, so the Kaufman Award is on the
On the 28th.
28th. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I have to get that behind because I
Yeah.
have other things in Argentina also. So
29th, at this time on the 29th, that'd be fine.
perfect. Then let me make the meeting right now.
Okay.
Okay. And so you are in, okay. I want to make sure that I have you, I put it in oneme.com, is correct?
That's fine.
Oh, okay. And basically,
It's interesting that Apple has three things. You can send it to me, Mac, or the web, or whatever, the universe. I wish they wouldn't do that. I mean, but they do that. It's like, it drives me crazy.
yes, is, you know, the multiplication of all the, one of the diagrams that I'm working with, this is a map of technology.
Right.
And this is changing all the time, but it's so, we are working with most of the things today.
Yeah.
And it's really a alphabet soup, and also
Yeah, no, that's the problem with right now is that, you know, there's Zoom, there's WebEx, there's, you know, there's probably some more too I don't even know about.
yeah.
And the problem with that is that they all have their little idiosyncrasies, and it's not easy. So, there's too many things. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true. What I'm going to do for our first round together is I will put some things that I have there and I send it to you so you can take a look.
Okay.
And that way you can do the same. So when we get together, it's like, okay, we know basically what.
Would you send me the diagram then, please?
Sure. You mean that one? Of course. And let me write this down. Tech diagram, and there is also, let me go, because I think this is something that may be I have a diagram that may help to it was related to HPT. I will see if I have. No, let me look in articles. It's easier. Articles beyond HPT, I think it was the name at the time. Yeah, here it is. What I did with this one, this is an old, but I think I will send you this diagram, okay?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because I think that you are there, by the way. I don't know if you correctly placed, but you will think, okay, how these things may connect, or we can play with this.
Okay.
No, it's not the problem with this diagram is not the 3D time. It's not time. There is no timeline here. It's just from the basics on the left to the outcomes on the right. So perhaps we should look in other ways, but there is some reference to other names. So anyway, I will send you this one,
okay.
so you also have that reference.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, I really look forward to working with you, and you are kind of a shy person, I can see. And I really appreciate the way you presented complex ideas in a very clear way. I remember the first institutes back then. A lot of people in management, of course, I always work with managers,
Right.
people in practice. For these people, of course, getting into this concept of needs assessment versus needs analysis, that was kind of in the way of getting something. But the way you presented with the 7 factors and doing, the people immediately could see from a managerial point of view. So I think that's an important take, that you have this eye for.
Well, it's one thing I always had to sort of make it simple. If I could sort of understand it, then I could explain it. If I couldn't understand it, then it's hard for me to explain it. And it's like, that's what when I worked at Wells Fargo, that was sort of all of our thinking, was that we've got to make this so we can figure it out. And this had anything to do with new regulations would come in. Right? So, because bank regulations are sometimes very complex, but they're not.
Yeah.
We try to do is that if we have to figure out how we understand those bank regulations, then if we can make us understand them, then we can tell other people.
Well, it's a perfect example for these.
And I worked with I worked with Carol Haig for a long time, but a person that you don't know exactly, her name was Kay Evans. Her name is Kay Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad was Jim Evans. Mm-hmm. And Jim Evans and Tom Gilbert were best friends.
Oh.
And also Tom Gilbert, Jim Evans, and Lloyd Homme were best friends. And they're also big drinking partners. And Jim Evans was with Tom Gilbert when he died. So a lot of people don't know that. I mean, they were very, very close.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
And Kay worked with me at the bank for a long time.
I think that one of the things that is interesting in your particular case, the relationship with Roger, of course, but the field is, yeah, sure.
Do I know anybody?
It's Mariano. You know Mariano.
I know that hand. One of the things that I think is very interesting, that you have this full picture, chronologically speaking, from in the case of Roger, from the beginnings to the later years. And there are not a lot of people who remain in ISPI having this span. No, because for example, I arrived after basically Tom Gilbert was out of the picture. He was still alive, but no longer.
Right.
So I miss a lot of this. Or I met people in other moment. No?
The one reason why I knew these people at an early age is because I worked with Lloyd Homme and Don Toasty at the Westinghouse Learning Corporation labs. And before that, it was Teaching Machines Incorporated. And these people would come to visit that Teaching Machines and then Westinghouse Learning Corporation. So when I say an example is that at TMI, one of the big things was people wanted to learn how to ride unicycles from a learning standpoint. So everybody bought unicycles, and lo and behold, who shows up was Bob Mager. So Bob Mager, I remember, trying to ride unicycles with Bob Mager. That was just sort of new. It's like those types of things. But again, all these people, because at was one of the big places where a lot of the early research with teaching machines was going on in Albuquerque, and that's where Jim Evans was, That's where Don Tosti was, and that's where Lloyd Hame was. And then later on, the man you probably don't even know, his name is Lou Bright. Lou Bright was, he worked for, he started a learning group at Westinghouse Learning Corporation.
Yeah.
And then he became Associate Commissioner of Education for the United States.
Oh.
And so there was a big leverage that education had, having Lou Bright there. Then eventually Lou Bright then went to Baylor University and started the Institute at Baylor University. And then that's why I went to Baylor. So it's like,
Oh, okay. I connect now your alma mater with the, yeah.
right.
Oh.
So that was the only reason why I ended up at Baylor, was because Lou Bright gave me a job. So I had a job at the institute that he established at Baylor University, and was in the physics department. So think about that. It wasn't in the education department, it was in the physics department.
Well, it's a good start. It beats the other way around. But
A lot of
that,
people don't know either, while we were there, is that we had the largest educational computer in the world was connected with the institute. The computer was so large, it was out at an airplane hangar at an Air Force base close to Baylor University. And that's when the machines were, you had to have air conditioning in them. They took up the size of an airplane hangar. And this was connected to research all over the world. So when I say introduction to program learning as well as online learning, that stuff is old to me. It's like, those things are just, they've been around a long, long time, and people think they're brand new. No, this was in the 19th.
That's interesting. So you started basically in the moment that programming instruction turned into computer-based training early years.
Oh yeah, that happened. That happened while I was at Westinghouse Learning Corporation. They were thinking about how to turn, and then this guy Lou Bright, one of his expertise was in computers.
Yeah.
Basically his back. I remember that he was saying is that, and this is way before, it was in the 1970s, he says, soon we will have computers sitting on our desk. And, people couldn't even, when we saw the computer that we had connected out in the barn, and thinking that we could have this computer on our desk, that was it was interesting to see. But we had all these companies would send us their experimental stuff and to be evaluated. It was an interesting time.
No, that's really. So those were the years of Plato, the platform.
Yes, yes, it was. Yeah, but that was done in another place. We certainly we knew about it, but it was done. Another group of people were working on that.
Because in the 80s, I worked for Anderson in the Learning Development Center in St. Charles. And I remember I joined the artificial intelligence group. Back then was just like physics, and the preliminary computer-based training unit that worked a lot with Plato premises, let's put it the other way.
Did you know Paul Harmon? You know Paul Harmon?
Yeah.
Paul Harmon was really he was really big in the artificial intelligence when it first came out. So actually his newsletters were all dealt with artificial intelligence, and then he went over to where he's doing now. So it's really interesting. He's quite knowledgeable about that area as well.
Yeah, we should. I don't know. It's every piece we can build of these foundations and the way things evolve over time is very interesting. I for example, lived through my early career. I was before Anderson. I was working for United Nations, and I remember I was in the strategic planning unit at the presidency of the country. So we were a staff unit, and we had this big desk of a UNDP, I was hired by UNDP to work in planning, educational planning. And one day I was in charge of that. And then someone had a great idea of sending the entire educational technology unit to depend from me. I was 26, 27. And I thought it was a punishment. I guess so. But one of the guys there, hired there, don't ask me why, was a movie director. And he was a typical bohemian guy, but really bohemian, a guy who did crazy things. And one day he was completely, in commercial film. And one day he showed up in the office and put a box and said, I just bought it, it's wonderful. And it was a TI-99 home computer.
All right.
Needless to say, this guy didn't know what to do with that.
Right, yeah.
Someone told him, oh, it's great. But he gave me a manual, a basic manual, and he spent the rest of the day in my big desk with his red TV set. My secretary was looking at me like, you're going to get kicked out of here. And that's how we started doing computer-based training in that area. We simulated a pandemic back then in 1980. Yes, because I have a mathematician and another guy who had been working in health and preventive health. So we invented, it was like a game, a simulation game to make hospital directors pay attention to budget.
Right, okay.
Because they really hated budget. And the idea was, okay, if we play with them connecting budget with, infection rates, and we had all this data from, so I was in charge of, building some kind of program as I was learning basic to simulate different situations. So, but that was, so the guy who got me into computer-based training was completely out of the, anyway.
That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
those are, it's always interesting, the people who are sort of not connected, but they don't realize they're connected, because that was the same thing about performance architecture.
Yeah.
I went over to my friend, I went over to Paul Harmon's house, and Paul knew that I like to travel. And he says, let me show you these really neat travel guides. And the travel guides were written by my friend now, Mark Johnson. And the travel guides were so different, because what he did is he took a neighborhood and you traveled like you would experience a neighborhood. So all the drawings were, so here's the restaurant next to the coffee shop, next to the whatever. So you took a street and you basically experienced the area from a street view, which I thought was really clever. So I looked in the back of it and I said, oh, this is, and the name of the company was The Understanding Business. And I said, oh, they're right down from the street from where I work. So there was a phone number. I called Mark Johnson up, and it's like one of those people you instantly have a relationship with. And so he basically said, well, come on down and I'll show you what I'm doing now. And he's a trained architect. And are you familiar with Henry Saul Warman? You know that name, Warman?
No.
Warman actually started what's the name of the keynote, the events that come up where people talk about their different things. I'm blocking on the name of it. I don't know why I'm not thinking of it. Anyway, as soon as I say it, you're going to say, oh my God, because he's the guy who invented it.
Wow.
And so it's, so I mean, it's really interesting, the connections that way. Is that,
yeah, absolutely. And then the idea of performance architecture always made me think a lot. My first career was architecture. I just did a couple of years and then moved to education. And but it remained my interest in particularly cities, which at the end, you know, it happens. You go full circle, you end. And I work a lot with architects. As a matter of fact, city doctors is half and half if you
You know, architecture and performance improvement, they are, I think, hand in hand.
yeah.
To me. I mean, because they're systems thinking. You have to have systems that work together. So that's why our conversations were built around those things. So it's so look up Warman as, because you like his books. His books are
Yeah.
quite.
Henry Werman.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not sure if maybe the first name, but the last name is Warman. Saul Warman.
Okay.
Saul Warman.
I will take a look. Yeah.
Take a look and see that I think you'll like his book. His books are built around the understanding of information. So it's information understanding.
Okay.
And then I hired Mark to do some work for me at the bank, and I'll tell you one thing he came up with, which I thought was very, the bank never did it, but I thought was very clever. The bank was always having a problem of keeping the brochure stocked. And so he invented this wall of brochures that was in the shape of a stagecoach.
Oh.
And so each of the brochures was a piece of the stagecoach. So if one part was missing, you needed to stock that piece of the wall to keep the wall up to date around the brochures around your products and services, which I thought was really interesting to think about if you want to keep your well stocked up. So anyway, that was one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, no, and perfectly consistent with Wells Fargo identity. Yeah, that's. I remember the first article you sent us was with
Mark,
him. Yeah, exactly.
Actually,
And I love the model also, the 3 dimensions and the culture dimension, which is missing in the others.
the first article that we actually wrote was for a British journal because ISBI was not interested in what we had to come up with.
How strange. How can that happen? I'm surprised.
ISBI is you know, it was a very valuable organization, but they were just never progressive. Just always never thinking. They still don't think about the future.
You know, it's there is something about I'm writing my first book in English is going to be from the provisory title is From Performance Improvement to Value Creation. And it describes the way I started, like most people, with individual performance, and ended involved with communities, cities, more complex. But then one of the things I describe in the introduction is that you're familiar with Isaiah Berlin, the hedgehog and the fox article?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that engineers are the perfect example. The academics are the perfect example of hedgehogs. They have one important idea, and everything moves around that. And consultants, we are like foxes. We know many little things. So that's why my work with Roger was also so useful for me, because we were complementary. He was a big hedgehog, and I benefited from this. Okay, putting together things that otherwise, well, I was solving problems. So how could I know that this could connect with other things without having? And again, another description I always do with Roger is, he was the architect, I was the builder, and I have a crazy architect. So sometimes it was okay. I have to put a university to do this thing. Yep. So, but that helped me also to take risks.
I think the the direction that that we should be going into are builders of performance systems, are architects and builders of performance systems.
Yeah.
Architects.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think, because you cannot be in the fixing business all the time. If you're always fixing stuff, then it's like, why didn't you build it right the first time?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think our future is in the building performance systems, not in the fixing performance systems. And Don Tosti talked about that as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. I remember also the idea of, how can you make a real transformation as opposed to episodic change? And I think one of the keys is that you have to figure out, I think the most difficult thing is that fixing things or improving existing things is a self-limiting proposition, and it's very dangerous because it's like, okay, why do we have to have a internal combustion engine? Well, because we always have so we are making it better, we're lighter, less pollutant.
Right.
What if we, I don't know, use other things to?
Well, I know we get stuck because people make lots of money off that stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's
That's why we have internal combustion engines, because people make lots of money until somebody comes along and says, well, maybe I can make money off of, electric cars. So
yeah. And I think that the ideal balance is you have to have both groups. You have to have, but usually organizations tend to go with one or another.
Yeah.
That's
again,
the problem.
I think if you look at, these things we hold in our hand, if they didn't ask us if we wanted these things.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They said, we will build it and you will come. And so
exactly.
I think that's the whole thing, is that if you think of, and I don't know where I read this, but if Ford was trying to build transportation, they would have asked him to build a better horse.
Exactly.
And so it's like, that was not he didn't see it that way. It's like, I see something else. So it's that other thing. So again, I think with ISBI and the people who run ISBI, they always saw such, they don't look to the future. They're not futurist.
No, exactly.
And we don't have anybody, I don't even think, that in ISBI that is really future oriented right now that I know of. I couldn't say that I can.
No, because it's also not connected with. Sorry?
That's why I have to go to other places. That's why I have to go to other places to find out what's happening.
Exactly.
You can't find it out. It's happening at ISBI. I think that's the downside for us.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the ideas we have with city doctors. Yeah.
I just thought of it. Saul Warmer came up with TED Talks.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And he sold it. He sold it later on, but he was the one who first started the TED Talks.
Wow.
Which was
wow.
An adventure. And that was Mark Johnson's business partner.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Okay.
Wow, that's some idea.
Right. So there are all these connections are really interesting.
Absolutely. And it's the one of the things I discussed many times with Roger was, okay, let's create a place other than ISBI where we can think more openly and exchange with people who are maybe not related necessarily with anything, like you have to do for cities, as you described, no? All of a sudden, okay, architects, like, or...
Klaus and I always wanted to do a mini conference.
Yeah.
Where you invited people you invite people from different communities.
Yeah.
To talk about improving performance, because everybody improves performance.
Mm-hmm.
So bring in, those different disciplines and talk about what they have in common. And you can really build, so I think, some interesting connections and models that way around. Because if everybody just sort of is open to talk about it, would be quite amazing. Rather than, you know, my model is the best. No, your model is not the best. Your model is a model.
Exactly.
It is.
And well, one thing we have in stock in planning stage for next year is organizing something like we did at Barcelona.
Yeah.
Regarding, we have two candidates. One, we are in talks with Uruguay's government to do it with a seat in Uruguay.
Mhm.
That will be for next year. But the other would be a more open environment that, as you describe, is just taking, for example, what we did with the pandemic was performance under pandemics.
Yeah.
And we made like town halls, and then groups emerged from that. People who were, you know, thinking how to deal with. But now we are talking with Gonzalo about doing performance after, meaning we are going to have at least a year or perhaps two living with both the COVID and the after COVID effects. Like, I don't know, restaurants or hotels, what they are going to do, but obviously there are a lot of changes in lifestyles and business.
Oh, yeah, one of the things that has sort of taught me is that I think we should wear a mask more often, even after this whole thing is over with.
Oh yeah.
Because I think, you know, just if it prevents a cold or prevents another flu,
Yes.
regular flu, why isn't that good? It's like, so wear a mask when you go out and go shopping or whatever, or on an airplane. And I think what's interesting is that the Asians have been doing this for years. I think that you see
Exactly.
what was much easier for them to go through this than for us, because, and then our society is a you know, this individualistic society that you can't tell me what to do is
Yeah.
basically it's at a, that's why we have 8 million people right now with COVID-19.
Exactly.
You can't tell me
Well,
what to do.
you put a finger on one of the key things. I'm also thinking about one topic with Mariano Sala, who works in the coaching area, is how to develop habits, because, you know, the famous 3 W's that they are talking now is wear a mask, watch your distance, and I don't remember the other W was also related to, you know,
Wash your
basic thing. Sorry? Wash your hands, correct. But the idea is all these things have to become automatic.
Right.
In order to work, because, you know, 90% of the hospital infections come from not washing hands. And of course, those guys know
Right.
that they have to do it, but they don't have the habit usually. So how can we develop a system one kind of thing?
Right. Did you read the Checklist Manifesto?
No. Checklist
Read it.
Manifesto.
Yeah, Checklist Manifesto, and that tells you, the medical profession, the 8 things that you can do to basically have a more successful rate on in your hospitals. And I think there's 6 or 7 or 8 things that you do. And it's an interesting story. It's written by a doctor who wrote it.
Oh,
The Checklist Manifesto.
Checklist Manifesto. Perfect. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how can we bring some attention to habits, which are hard to change.
Read the Checklist Manifesto, and because it's a habit. You know, for example, what he says, if in the operating room, if the doctors and the nurses introduce themselves to each other before they do an operation, it has a higher probability that the operation will go successfully. It's like, who knew? It's like, so I mean, he's got things like that too. And then the other one that was really, the other story he has, which I thought was another one. Then, so he presents his data to a group of doctors. And the group of doctors said, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Yes, yeah, that's right. That sounds good. And some of them, so he had about, 85, 95% of the people who said, that's a good idea. We'll adopt it. We'll do it. Then there was that group of people said, no, I'm a doctor and I know what to do. This sounds hokey. But then they asked another question, is that, would you, if you are a patient in the operating room, would you want your doctors to follow these procedures? And all these people who were skeptics, like, yes, I want my doctor to follow those procedures. So it's a matter of, it's really interesting about people's behavior. Is that when it's like, I'm the doctor, you can't tell me what to do, or I'm the American citizen, you can't tell me what to do, until you're Christy and says, oh my God, I wish I had worn a mask. He gets the virus, he goes to the hospital, we don't have no idea how bad it was for them, but now he says, I should have worn a mask. Well, it's too little too late, sorry.
Well, you put also another point is you have to find a way to introduce the innovation that is acceptable or attractive for the culture. For example, we were talking about, computers were around, and I remember, insisting on, okay, we have to go online, etc. And there was always a 20% of adopters and a large number of people who were trying to avoid it because they found computers not attractive. But then came, and all of a sudden, nobody can escape. So I think cell phones became the best way to put people online, to connect people with technology, and of course, force also technologies to adapt to an interface with people, with actual people. So I think that in order to do something with regard to health prevention of, you have to find a way. I was thinking, for example, when you have a mask, there are clear masks. So masks that let you show your face. For some reason, they are still not widely adopted. But I think that a lot of people in cultures where, the face is to be shown, not to be hidden. Because if you go to the Muslim culture, covering your face is also a sign of respect. You see a woman that has only the eyes out, and it's okay. It's modesty. But if you see someone with a face cover or a hoodie in our culture, is trouble. I mean, so these small details.
That's why the Black community has had such a hard time accepting mask, is because mask was a sign of being a bad person, not a good person.
Yeah, exactly. And also the, all the problems that Black people have in this country with police. So imagine that if I cover my face, each time I stop. So finding ways to get there is very important. But anyway, so we can do that.
Those are hard. Okay. Well, send me the matrix.
I will, and I will send you this, and we exchange things for our coming meeting.
Yeah, I'm just looking at around my shelves